There's news I want to talk about when it comes to ZBCN. Now, what do I mean by this, even though nothing I say is financial advice? Well, first of all, not too long ago, Zebec announced that they're going to be partnering with something called Ghostware to enable private on-chain settlement for Solana stablecoins across their product suite. Now, why do I think it's pretty cool? It's because if we take a look at Zebec by kind of its origin, right? It's originally built on Solana, and then also on top of that, Solana Ventures is a backer when it comes to some of Zebec. So I think something like this is pretty cool. Now, when it comes to this, right, this partnership that they're having again with something called Ghostware, I mean, I've never really heard about it before. However, it is allegedly the privacy layer of Solana. So that is pretty cool. And again, as of right now, a lot of projects out there that I do see, sometimes they do want to prioritize something like privacy. I mean, for instance, we take a look at a project like Coti, right? It's spelled COTI. The thing is, initially they were focused on payments and then they changed kind of the whole focus of the project to become a privacy centric Ethereum layer 2. So yeah, I mean, I kind of see that pattern sometimes. So I do like seeing this when it comes to Zebec. Now, Zebec, unlike Cody, did not entirely kind of change its focus, but I'm just saying that whole vibe right there, I do like what I'm seeing when it comes to this. Because again, when it comes to Zebec, their goal, to my perspective, at least from what I can see in their kind of intention, is to have better enterprise adoption, right? I think it would be fair for me to say that. And the thing is, a lot of enterprises out there, they do care about privacy. So I do like seeing this when it comes to Zebec. And the thing is, Zebec isn't only a project that's focused on the retail side of things because having the cards, having like kind of the whole vibe of what they did when it comes to Bonk, when it comes to something like, for instance, other projects out there that have a meme type of vibe. I mean, it's cool and all, but at the same time, it's not only just focused on that, right? We take a look at what Zebec did with Algorand. Algorand, keep in mind, a very famous layer on blockchain. And if we take a look at it just overall, Algorand does have an aspect of ISO 20022, in which Zebec is still trying to achieve ISO 20022 compliance. At least it's in progress from what I can see. So that is pretty cool. Again, it's kind of more so focused on that type of stuff as well. We see, again, how Circle, the creator of USDC, they're even a backer when it comes to Zebec. So again, Zebec's not only a project that's only focused on retail, it has aspects of that too, sometimes through the Zebec cards, but it also has other aspects as well. Like for instance, it's focused on payrolls, in which it allegedly has over 200 payroll enterprise clients. So yeah, I mean, again, what I like about Zebec is that it's focused on kind of both markets, I would say, right? The retail side of things and also as well as the enterprise side of things, which I don't think is such a bad thing. Other projects out there, they only want a singular focus, in which case it kind of works, right? We've seen it time and time again. But why not just be focused on both sometimes? That's the way to take a look at it. However, also on top of that as well, some altcoins out there are beginning to have a slight recovery, but we are still around 32 times lower than 10 cents, especially when it comes to ZBCN. So, yeah, I mean, the recovery hasn't been that drastic, but at least it's not as bad as what it once was. Like, for instance, we take a look at not too long ago, the market cap was around 200 million. Now, granted, there's a pullback to around, 290 million around that range after reaching around 300 million, but still the way you take a look at it is that when it comes to ZBCN, at least it's not down like over 90% from around a $500 million market cap, in which we've seen a lot of projects out there ever since that kind of initial rally that we saw not too long ago. When it comes to altcoins, a lot of them have went down like over 95% and all this. ZBCN, granted, because it is an altcoin, we are still seeing a pretty extensive pullback, especially if it's compared to something like a Bitcoin, which isn't an altcoin, but I'm saying just by nature, because ZBCN is an altcoin, the pullback, again, in the grand scheme of things, has been pretty extensive when compared to Bitcoin, for instance. But let's say comparatively speaking to other kind of projects that originally had its kind of size at one point, personally for me, I think it's been holding up a little bit more dynamic, right? Or should I say dynamically, when compared to some other projects out there that, again, originally kind of had its popularity and size, in which case a lot of them that I do see as of right now, they're down like over 90%. Which again, it's kind of the altcoin space. What can I do about it? Like sometimes a movement in either direction could be pretty kind of rapid, right? Like the movement sometimes doesn't take like years, sometimes either down or up. So if that is the case, kind of like knowing that when it comes to altcoins and all this type of stuff, when I just see what I'm seeing when it comes to ZBCN, it doesn't concern me as much as some other altcoins out there, even though granted, I don't think I've seen an altcoin season, but I'm just saying still, with around quote unquote just 88,000 holders, again around that range, it's been holding up pretty okay comparatively speaking. That's just the way to take a look at it. Could one of the reasons be that Circle, which is the creator of USDC, holding a bunch of ZBCN allegedly? Could that be a reason why it's been holding up somewhat arguably a little bit better than some other projects out there? Who knows, maybe, but it wouldn't necessarily surprise me. Now, the thing is, if I take a look at, let's say, the payments market, as of right now, it's currently valued at over 2 trillion, whereas the global trade and finance market, it's predicted to reach up to 5 trillion by 2028, according to Mordor Intelligence. Now, there's no way for me to know that because, first of all, we're not even in 2026, even though it's kind of close. I would have to wait until 2028, for instance, to see something like that. But the payments market, as of right now, again, it's already valued at over 2 trillion. The thing is this, within the space as of right now that we're seeing, in the payments and global trade and finance space, I'm not saying like just overall in all markets. I'm just saying this market more specifically. Like ZBCN is not the 30th most popular within its own sector, right? If we just think about it, if we consider how XLM, or should I say Stellar, is number 2 and XDC is number 3, arguably I think number 4 in terms of popularity is, I would say, ZBCN as of right now. And if it kind of holds that position throughout, let's say, an altcoin season, if we do ever even hypothetically see one, with around a $9.5 billion market cap, again, for a top 4 project, arguably if it could even maintain that position in the payments and global trade and finance space, again, during an altcoin season, would around that market cap be kind of too ridiculous? Again, around 9.5 billion, in which it would actually have, considering current circulating supply at the hypothetical ID of 10 cents. Like, this is not a market cap that is 40, 50 billion or something like that. If that is the case, maybe it's a little bit of a different situation, right? But I'm just saying, like, that market cap right there, for arguably, if it could actually even maintain that number 4 spot, right, within this space, I don't know if that seems that ridiculous to me, but yeah, I mean, that's just the way to take a look at it. Now, keep in mind, right, if we take a look at it as well, I think sometimes people kind of ignore what Zebec is doing when it comes to, let's say, RWAs, but I think real-world assets, I think there's still a pretty cool focus nonetheless. I mean, Ondo, for instance, which is heavily focused on that aspect, it's still pretty massive. I mean, it's already kind of, become pretty popular historically speaking, and it's still having a pullback as of right now, generally speaking, right? But I'm just saying, we've already kind of seen that. And the thing is, Zebec is not only kind of focused on that, right? It has many other focuses too. So if I take a look at something like that, I find it pretty interesting that Zebec kind of has that tool, I would say, right? Where some other projects out there, they don't really care. They just want to be focused on one thing. But I like how Zebec is kind of expanding its focus and not only just focused on one thing and one thing only. Not to mention, when I take a look at it, I mean, when it comes to Bitcoin, as of right now, it is around 90 grand. I mean, it's still quite a ways away from 120 grand, in which not too long ago we saw, right? But the way you take a look at it was that, we just saw that not too long ago. And the sentiment when it comes to altcoins, even though that was not an altcoin season in my perspective at all, like even just a couple months ago, or even just, let's say, a year ago or something like that, I don't think that was an altcoin season in my perspective, or let's say just even 6 months ago, whatever the case may be. But still, even despite that, the sentiment when it comes to altcoins was completely different, right? It wasn't doing the best, but it didn't have the sentiment that we had like 2 weeks ago, for instance, So if, let's say, Bitcoin could go back to like around that 120 grand range, or even just 100 grand, or like 105 grand or something like that, I feel like the sentiment when it comes to altcoins could hypothetically be a lot more dynamic than like just 2 weeks ago, or even as of right now. So in my perspective, the way you take a look at it is that sometimes in this space, sentiments could change pretty quickly. So this is why I just haven't given up when it comes to this space. And even assuming if there is a hypothetical altcoin season, it's probably going to happen when I least expect it to do so. Like, for instance, when I was holding ZBCN initially, did I know that at around, what was it, the middle of May pretty much, it was going to randomly have that rally? Like, no. Like, I mean, I was a fan, but I couldn't control that, right? If I didn't know the exact moment at that time, I'm not going to be able to know the exact moment moving forward either if there's, let's say, hypothetically a next leg up, if there's, let's say, an altcoin season. So if I know that, again, what I'm going to be doing is just preparing for the projects that I do like, and that's pretty much about it. I'm not telling anyone to do anything, by the way. This is just my perspective, but I'm just saying when it comes to what I'm doing, I am dollar cost averaging per month, right? Or should I say once a month? I'm not doing it like, you know, trying to find the perfect moment or something like that. Again, I'm not doing that. Imagine, right? If I thought the perfect moment for whatever reason was back in, let's say, June, like, and then let's say I got it at like around a $500 million market cap. Imagine right now if it's like around 300 million, you know? But if I just dollar cost average once at that point and I dollar cost average multiple times before that and then multiple times after that, in the grand scheme of things, it's not as like drastic and it won't make me feel as like kind of, I would say, a little bit demotivated had I just thought that, back in June, that was my hypothetical perfect time. You know what I mean? So that's why I don't do that. I just like to stay consistent and just treat it like a marathon, and that's pretty much about it. But I just wanted to make a video real quick and talk about, again, what Zebec is doing. I mean, the recent partnerships they had, I wouldn't really say are like the most popular or the greatest of all time, but still, it's not bad. I mean, at least it's still doing something. You have to also consider ZBCN is not the biggest project out there. It's not even the biggest within its space. So yeah, the way to take a look at it is it's not that bad considering what stage Zebec is in terms of a project, considering how it's not the biggest, considering how it's not the most popular. I think these partnerships are still pretty cool, which is why I'm still staying patient, holding, and just waiting. And that's pretty much about it, even though I'm not telling anyone to do anything, and even though nothing I say is financial advice. And I want to say thank you for watching. I hope y'all have a nice day. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.